Okay, we continue with Reishis Chochma. Uh, we're talking about the two aspects: ha'osi lo tiro mipanai lo sachilu. We have to fear God just by virtue of who He is, which is unknowable, and mipanai though from His face, even from the way we do know Him, mitzad how He reveals Himself to us. So there are both aspects. Now he wants to go deeper into that. The aspect of osi lo sira, mipanai lo sachilu, fearing him because of his unknowable essence, fearing him because of his revelation to us. All right, so he says over here we're in Perak Shlishi of Shara Yira, if Tess. Shtei bechinas elu so we find these two aspects of Osi lo siroi, Pone lo sachilu, both in the oceans and how they fear God, and also in the other bayam. So now in the oceans, we know what Chazal say. But Ma'amarinu she talked about Shper that we brought down in the beginning of the parak, beginning of this very parak. Sorry, I lost my place. So now HaKadosh decreed on the ocean to stay in its place, right? Not swamp the world. Should not leave its boundary. What's its boundary? So the sandbank is your boundary. He b'china ne'olemes yom shivoy tzivui amelch mashet tzivo zeh kamashim abiyado mitzaveu davar v'aynu b'chinas osi losor. Now the decree, stay in your place, right? It was goes around the yam. That was at the time of Bria So'ilam, and ever since then, God hasn't reissued that decree. So that decree is now hidden, right? Yam is not hearing it now. It heard it just at the time of the Bria, and that was enough. Even though that tzivui is not in front of it right now, right? So that's like b'chinas ha'osi l'sro. We said osi refers to God's unknowable essence, and mitzad that we have to fear God. So also the yam, even though it doesn't hear anymore, the tzivui of staying in its place, it still upholds that which it can't see and it can't hear. It still upholds it anyway. And that's b'chin of osi lo siro. Me, you don't fear. Me, that is unknowable. Yeah, you can't see me, can't hear me. You should fear me because I'm so awesome, even though you can't see me and hear me. And that's the Yam obeying the gzera of not leaving its place and staying in the ocean, and not subject for a gzera that it can no longer see or hear. That's the aspect of also fearing the unknowable and the unseeable. The kenegadim panai, but also for my face. So you should also fear me mitzvah, what you do see. Who shayam also that the yam also sees the sandbank around it, right? V'yodesh hakadosh sham some lo gvulza, and he knows, sandbank. This is the boundary God told me not to cross, and is the boundary that the sea can see, right? The sea can see it. Right, so that's me. So it's like obeying God's decree that is invisible and and inaudible. And then there's obeying God's decree mitzad seeing the sandbank. Oh, this is the boundary I'm not supposed to cross. Right, right. So now with these two aspects of fearing what you no longer see or hear in front of you, because it's the right thing to do, right? And also seeing, fearing mitzad, what is in front of you. We have, the Adam has these two aspects of Yira also regarding Torah. Of course, Torah and mitzvahs that are in the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, which are visible, black on white. That's like our sandbank that we see. We see our boundary. Just like the sea sees its sandbank, we see our chumash that commands us in all the mitzvahs of Torah that we must not transgress. Our relationship to chumash is to us like the sandbank is to the ocean. And Torah is in truth the face of the king. What do we know about God? We know his Torah. It's the face of the king. Just we don't see his face literally, but the Torah is his face. The Torah represents him. The Torah is the aspect about him that we see that represents him. That's indeed, Torah is like the seal of the surah of the king, in the words of the Zohar, Tikkun Zohar. But we did have for a moment see Kiviyachol. God has no physical form, but we saw a more direct form, Kiviyachol, representative, at the time of Matan Torah. As we explained in the first parak, right, of Sharayira, so me don't fear. So even though we don't see Matan Torah anymore, but there was this Gilu Elokus, Chom Roim Esakolos, right? So now we no longer see it, but seeing it once should be enough forever and ever, just like the ocean hearing from God at the time of creation. Stay in your place. Yikavu amayim amakom echad, b'tira yabasha, and that was enough. That was enough, even though so you continue to fear that gazera that you could no longer see and no longer hear. So also we should just be yorei HaKadosh Baruch Hu just by virtue of Matan Torah, even though we don't see those Gilu Elokus anymore, right? Just once should be enough, even though you can no longer see or hear it, right? As I say, by Matan Torah, because we did all that fair. You also built techato. Right, have God's fear on your face, on your own face, that you should never sin. Once should be enough forever. It was good enough for the ocean just to hear HaKadosh Zera once, right, and no longer sees or hears that Zera still keeps it. For us, Matan Torah should be enough also, even without seeing the Chumash black on white. That's another reason to fear God. Right? So we should fear God just because of Mamad Har Sinai, even though we no longer see Mamad Har Sinai. This way, the ocean only heard its Gzera stay in its place once, and we should fear God additionally because God made the Torah take on a definite shape, which so Chumash in our eyes is like the sandbank that's in the face of the sea. Another reason to stay in place and not transgress. Right? Right, V'gam ef shaloymar, says Sifyud. You could also say, Ki advoshe b'ra koshu b'adam atzmo yetzatov. Say like, make it more an internal thing. The boundary that we do see, that mitzad, the boundary that we see, we shouldn't be transgressing. We shouldn't be crossing that boundary. It's the Yetzer Tov. As the Rabbi says, sheyesh balev shnei chalolim, like Chazal tell us, there are two chambers to the heart, right side, left side. Echad malei dam. One is more full of blood, and in the model that the Zohar describes in Parshas Mishpatim, he says, one is full of blood, Mishkan Yetzer, and that's the left side, and that's where the Yetzer is. Blood, the other one is like more full of air from the lungs, I guess, in the perception of the Zohar envision it that way. It doesn't mean that's necessarily physically that way, but Derech Mashal, one is more the air, one is more just the animal blood. So the half with animal blood is where the Yetzer is, and the half where it's more airy, so it's more spiritual, that's where the Yetzer Tov is. With the Mishkan, that's where the Yetzer Tov is. V'nei k'shegale Yetzer home in Lavos Torah. So now when the Yetzer Hara, which is like, according to the stormy waters, the evil waters, right? So when the Yetzer Hara is like, like the waves of the Yetzer Hara wants to come crashing, break through the boundaries, the tsunami of the Yetzer Hara, It's or homim lav or altar. It's like churning up, to be over on the Torah, which is it would be equivalent of like the sea, showing a tidal wave, wanting to, swamp the earth, right? For the earth. Yetzer Tov, oh my God, the Yetzer Tov stops and puts a boundary, and it's your good conscience to go back to your place, stay where you are, right? And of course, you're relying on him when he says that there's even the biggest Russia has some hirurei tshuva before he does the sin. I guess we're just so detached we don't hear it. I don't hear it. So as he said, I'm taking his word for it that even the biggest Russia, he has his Yetzer Tov does speak up, before he does the sin in an attempt to stop him, right? That Ella Yitzhak, one of the problems that the Yitzhak just is too seductive, so you ignore and you're not swayed by the Yitzhak Tov begging you to not sin. But indeed, because the Yitzhak Tov is there, that's what causes you to feel regret. The Yitzhak Tov initially tried to stop you, but you weren't listening, or you just couldn't. The seduction was too strong. But then after that, the Yetzer Tov that tried to stop you also caused you to have the hirurei charota, the feelings of regret. And that's why Chazal say Rishoyim leim charotot. Rishoyim are full of regret. If you're living a life of why did I do this? Why did I do that? It's Rishoyim full of regret, which proves that the Rishoyim do have the Yetzer Tov, because where are these feelings of regret coming from? L'chein Amar Apostle. And therefore, the pasuk says, "Lama zehaya leiv soramer soru vayelechu." Right? This nation had a heart that was swerving and rebelling. Sorero more. So they swerved, vayelechu, and they went. Kisor magvul asher b'liam. So it's like explaining slave sorer umore soru vayelechu. Right, so he's breaking up Kisor Magvol. They actually have a heart that was swerving, because you have a built-in boundary in your heart. It's called your Yetzer Tov, and you swerved from it. Yetzer Tov, Masabam is the Yetzer Tov that warns you and tries to stop you. And you went outside of it. You broke the barrier, of the Yetzer Tov. When Masha Amruzal Parakam with the Baba Bas is what Chazal say. The first part of Baba Basa. Brasi Yetzara, Brasi Yetzer Tov, Brasi Yetzara, Brasi Tavlin, Kenegel Shua Torah. I create Yetzer Tov, and I indeed. So first we have the Yetzer Tov against the Yetzara. A, B. I also Brasi Yetzara, Brasi Tavlin, Kenegel Shua Torah, and I created the Yetzara, and also I created a medicine, which is the Torah. Right. So it makes it sound like the point is made is that we have actually 2 points in our favor. And I guess that's Keneged Ha'osi, Lo Sura, and Paralel Tachilu. We have the Yetzer Tov, and we also have the Torah. 2 reasons to fear God and not transgress. Yetzer Tov and the Torah. Right? But, I was speculating. He's going to now go more deeply into what he wanted from that pasuk, al pisod. Well, derech hasod and going kabbalistically, we could explain what is alluded to in the doubleness of the pasuk. Ha'osi lo siro, right? Me you don't fear, imi parei lo tachilu. Again, going back to that double pasuk. Ha'osi lo siro hu keneged shem yud kei vav kei. Me you don't fear is referring to the name Havaya Baruch Hu that we know. So that's mitzad the Shem Yud Kevav. Okay, imi paralel tachil Shem Adnus. Right, but from my face you don't tremble. That's Adnus. Aleph Daled Nun Yud. Shesham Ponim. That's where the face is, because the name Yud Kevav Ke we're not allowed to pronounce. But the name Adnus is the one we're allowed to. So as a word, that Adnus is the revealed face, and the Shem Havai is the hidden essence. Vu's sign is this, the secret. Below color arts quoted, the whole world is filled with his glory. Right? That really everything is adnus, everything is havaya and adnus. Well, we had this before. That everything is havaya, but also havaya is on the inner layer. You know, the outer layer is adnus, malchus, which gives the final form to everything, and it's inner outer. You know, in and hidden, inner and hidden is yud ke vav ke, outer and revealed, which is the face, is adnus, and the whole world is filled with havaya on the inside and adnus on the outside. Usually, what's going to explain tikkune, like they explain the tikkune zoyer. Now, these two aspects are reflected by the ocean, by the yam. Right, so the aspect that's connected to Shem, Aleph Dalet Nun Yun Adnus, Hashem's name of mastery, Uchol Gvul Layam Chok Olam Lo Yaviro, the sand that is the boundary of the ocean. It is the eternal law that is not passed. Chizo B'chinas HaNiglos, and that's of course the open, that's the open revealed boundary that is not to be passed. That's Adnus, which is revealed. Connected on Nister and connected the name Havai, which is hidden by his Goshvo, the ocean, flares up, riles up, right? But it can't. It's the well, the waves, they swell up, right? Right? But they still don't pass, right? Now, seemingly the first part of Pasuk, there's turmoil, but they cannot. It's seemingly extra. The main part should just be that the waves swell, right, and they still don't pass, right. Right, so to explain this, we have to bring what they explain on the pasuk. In Patilim, you reign with with greatness over the ocean. Besogav, when it's when it's waves raise, you break them. You break those waves. That I guess he's bringing from the Zohar. Yes, from the Zohar and Noach, Parshas Noach, that when the ocean starts churning up, HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts a little string, a chut shel chesed, little string of chesed, lashkin as well to calm the oceans out, because how the oceans churn up is like an act of kas, gevura, kas, which is the bad aspect of gevura. So a little chut shel chesed, the opposite, calms it. Then the word teshabchem, like I said, means that you break them, to push them back to their place. Because this chut shel chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends, this hidden chut, this chut shel chesed is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu hiddenly does. No one sees the chut shel chesed, that he sends to calm the ocean down. Right, and that's parallel to name Yud Ke Vav Ke. Right, and you just see the second part of the possible. So as the waves swell, you break those waves that they can't come and harm, the dry land. Right, so that the latter part is what we do see. The first part of see is riled up, and then the Chosh calms it with the chut shel chesed. That's what goes on hiddenly, parallel to name Yud Ke Vav Ke, and what goes on the overt level, that Chosh breaks the waves. That's connected to Shem Adnus that we do see. With this, we can re-examine the Sifri that we brought down, that we copied at the beginning of the parak. Shamru, and he said, Lord El Shemitztar, Vein Yochalas, so everybody's goes, Sifri says that the ocean, feels bad, that it wants to, but it can't. which is all going on internally. That's all the internal strife. You want to and it can't. That's referred to it. It's getting riled up, and of course, who just forcibly calms it with the chut shel chesed. Just I see my battery's about to die. Let me just plug in the laptop. Give me a second, please, Rabbi Sai. Okay, we're back. Okay. Right, so now these two aspects that we mentioned, that we have in the ocean, you also have them in the person. First of all, going about in the person, what's going on in his spirit on the inside. Who fashions the ruach, the spirit of person within him. Who interacts, there's interaction with your inner world, your spirit within. That is our that's your inner spirit, and then the outside is your body, which is like the outer garments on your neshama. The outer garment is your body. That is with which the soul, the soul puts on your body, like you put on your body puts on clothes. When a person thinks about this, right, that your soul and all your organs are all, all set up and all planned out with HaKadosh Baruch Hu taking counsel with the Beis Din Elyon, the heavenly council, the heavenly court. You have to be careful. You don't want to defile not your body and not your spirit. You want to keep your spirit pure. You want to keep your body pure. Your inner world pure, your outer world pure. Kamosha Pirshu Zal Pasuk Eskvar so, right, right, who should come after the king, Asher Kvar, so that he had already made himself, shown him. So what does the Medrash Rabbah, Kolos Rabbah say on this Pasuk Kolos? Asher Kvar so Enksiv Ella Kan Ella Asuhu Kvyachol Melch Malchei Amlachim, right, right, it doesn't mean what the king did, but rather, Asuhu, right, the King of Kings. I'm not sure what the diuk of the Medrash is. Let's just see in the footnotes if it makes it clearer. So, however the diuk is and how the pasuk is written with the extra vav. No, so it doesn't mean what the king did, but rather what the king made by the king, as opposed to what the king did, but made by the king. That you were made by Melech Malchei Amlachim Beis Dino, and he and his heavenly court. They were appointed and they administered each organ. Each one of your and they set you up as you are. Like the pasuk says in Parshas Azinu, Hashem made you and set you up. Right, so and he says this concept is repeated a few times in Chazal, and that's also, you should be embarrassed to sin. Both are mitzad. You don't want to, after God made you in your inner world and your outer world, you don't want to sin and mess up either, right? Right. So I guess inner world connected to the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, your ruach, your organs connected to Shem Adnus is where I'm guessing he's going with that. Primus and Chitzonis, Havaya and Adnus. You don't want to mess up not your inner world that's hidden and not your outer world that's revealed. Is another aspect. Another thing, just something that it should concern anyone on the most simple level. If God gave you riches and honor and, a lot of real estate and children and all the good of Olam Hazeh, you should be afraid to sin because then you'll lose it all, take it away from you. The passage that we just finished Parshas Vayishlach. Yaakov say to Shema Yigrom Achet. Yaakov was afraid. Why is he afraid? God promised to protect him in Parshas Vayetze. As the Gemara answers, Shema Yigrom Achet. He was really scared because maybe he did a sin, and he doesn't deserve that protection anymore. So he is vulnerable in body, and in family, and in possessions, all vulnerable. And these are the words of the Gemara in Brachos that he's referring to. The Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi asked the stira, here I'm with you. I'm going to guard you wherever you go. Hashem says in Parshas Vayetze. And it says in Parshas Vayishlach, Yaakov Modi was very scared of Esav. He's afraid, maybe he did a sin and he doesn't deserve that protection. He doesn't have to deserve to retain and hold on to what he has. Like we learned to the Brisa, similarly, there's all in the Gemara and Brachos over there, Dafdal. Until your nation, Hashem passed, until the nation that you acquired. Until your nation passed. That's when we came to Eretz Yisrael the first time with Yoshua. Until it passes this nation that you acquired. That's when we came in days of Ezra, the second coming to the land. From here, Chazal said, really, we should have deserved to have open miracles coming back with Ezra, which we didn't have, like we had, when we had open miracles when we conquered the land with Yoshua. All the old open miracles are right there at the beginning of Sefer Yoshua. Right? We should have had those miracles, parallel miracles, when we reconquered the land in the days of Ezra. And why? And as is alluded to in this pasuk, the pasuk, prophetically talks about both together in the same pasuk, mashma, that they would be equal, and we'd have miracles in the days of Ezra like we have had in days of Ezra. That's what we should have had. But sadly, the sin caused us, and stepped in. We didn't have, we were not zocheh to have, what we did have. So that's not really just to fear God, simple, plain, and pashut, just so you can hold on to what you have. So let's just do one more short one. There's going to be Shema Yigrom Achet. It's going to be a big sugya over here. But let's just do one more seif. And it was going to be a long one. You're going to go Tifit to Shema Yigrom Achet. It's not a small thing. It's a big concept. This fear of maybe, God forbid, I sinned and I ruined it all. Shema Yigrom Achet is actually a very terrible thing. It is actually to make a pagam in the midah that's accompanying us in Golus and protecting us. Right? Like, case in point, Yaakov Avinu. He was in Golus and Beis Lavan. God promised to protect them in Golus. And Yaakov was afraid that he ruined this midah of protection that God grants us in Golus. And look at how this is so apropos to our situation today. Here we are in Golus, and seemingly we've lost our protection, not just in the Holy Land, where there's an active war going on and Nebuch Yidden are being killed. Right, Hashem Yirachim, and even in Golus with the whole world, anti-Semitism is swelling again. That's why Dafka is zeroed in that on the days of Ezra, there was a sin. What was the sin? So it says there in Sefer Ezra, that they were intermarried. They had a problem of like a little bit of an intermarriage problem. All right. So right. Right. So now, intermarriage, which is pagama bris. I think he's alluded to. We'll see from next sif, which we're going to do next time we learn Beis Hashem. I think he's referring to pagama bris, seemingly. which we have to be very careful about. Uh, Hashem help us. And don't get me started about the neo-Hasidic bozos that Hasidus came to warn us about Pgama Bris, and now you have neo-Hasidic bozos that say not to worry about it. And God forbid, God help us. And they increase the schok v'kalos rosh, and they call it being pneumistic. Schok v'kalos rosh hamargilim adam la'erva. Hashem Yerachim. Okay, but I mean, we'll see if I'm proven right. Sounds like he's talking about the bris kodesh. So right, and that's what it was. Ezra, intermarriage, or the chet hayadua. It's pagama bris, and it's the bris. It's the shechina that's with us in Golus. That's nifkam by pagama bris. And that's we lose the midah. The Shekhinah that's come to Golus with us to protect us, Hashem Yerachim. But he's going to go into it with Mefurish Zayars. So stay tuned for the next time we learn. He's going to go deeply into the sugya. It's and Alpi Zayars, and we'll also hopefully have the Chassid Azor behind us. Azor Hashem, Shir B'suras Taivas.